What's up, circles? We're coming up on 2 weeks of open gameplay after the ICO was released, and two things have become abundantly clear to me. A, the majority of players are calling this a win and are enjoying Squad 2, evidenced by the growth in player count. And two, the two extreme sides of this argument are still very much entrenched and seem unwilling to budge. I'm starting to notice more competitive players here and there starting to come around to seeing the changes in a positive light, as well as some already pro-ICO players whom are singing the praises of the 6.01 hotfix. It's probably a good sign that people are starting to meet in the middle. Lord knows we all want to put the drama of the ICO release behind us and just enjoy the game, but I'm not quite there yet. I have a very clear idea of what I think Squad 2 can and should be, and make no mistake, the 6.01 hotfix changes are an ominous huffing sign. We here at the Cornman Farmstead are very much absolutists on this issue. When set upon by heretics and cultists of the flick-shooting gods, there is but one course of action. Cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war. Let the golden light of the Infantrium Pugnus over Harlem shine above eternal and scorch the earth beneath the feet of the blasphemers. All memes aside, I unironically mean this. The type of gameplay I want from this game is largely incompatible with these lame euphemisms I keep hearing, like tightened up gunplay and tweaking and polishing up the weapon handling. I don't think a lot of people realize how big of a change 10% buff to lateral sway on all rifles actually is. It directly undermines the intentional division of use cases between scoped versus iron sight weapons. Rifles should be distinct in excelling in ranged combat or close quarter combat. This change has made ACOGs and other 4X scopes viable in close quarters again, which is diametrically opposed to the original intention. When ACOGs are viable in close quarters, yet still vastly superior at range, we might not be right back exactly where we started, but it's a major step in the wrong direction. Stop trying to tighten up weapon handling. We had 3 months of that. Let it sit for a while and let people learn the new system. Aiming at center mass is military doctrine for a reason. It is hard to hit human bodies when you're in the field. People are going to bitch about it online because modern FPSs remove the challenges to gunfights that the pesky physics engine in the real world remains stubbornly uncompromising on. Infantry combat is not supposed to be glamorous and responsive. It's supposed to be exhausting and challenging, and you shouldn't even be certain if you hit the target you are aiming for in the thick of a firefight. I'm not about to start doom posting, but from where I'm sitting, OWI has already watered down their initial ICO product since the early and mid playtests, and I accepted it, somewhat begrudgingly, because it made an unplayable game playable. But now, after release, it wasn't even 1 week and they're already continuing to further simplify the weapon handling and walk back the punishing sway. It's a bad sign. This is basically the third straight month of undermining the ICO. I was really hoping OWI would have the spine to ride out the overhaul a little bit longer. These changes take time to adapt and learn. Literally, these are very new and innovative gameplay concepts that are being employed. Give people time. Once you get the hang of it, it will click and it becomes automatic. Weapon sway is absolutely integral to the gunplay. The sway of a weapon determines 1, your cone of fire, and B, your clarity of the sight picture. What I wanted was a 10% nerf to accuracy in sight picture, not a 10% buff. There was a big fuss made recently on one of these debates about how absurd a 4-second timer is to achieve maximum stability after walking. All these people that talk about how they shot their uncle's M1 Garand at the range one time, talking about how unrealistic it is to walk and then need 4 seconds to stabilize while aiming and standing. First off, people need to stop citing their ownership of firearms as if it fully credentializes them as a game design consultant. Secondly, shooting accurately while standing is not fucking easy. You're not going to be hitting a target at 80 meters on the first shot without bracing against something. The rifle sway is a way to emulate that difficulty while compromising that you're using a mouse and a keyboard. Thirdly, I hereby challenge any anti-ICO people to time themselves the next time they go to the range. Have your rifle unshouldered, and then start the timer, sit at the bench, take your aim, and hit a target at 80 meters on the first shot. If you can do that within 4 seconds, I will write and recite a poem singing the praises of Call of Duty Modern Warfare weapon handling here on this channel. Spoiler alert, 4 seconds is not a very long time when handling a live weapon. Now combine that with the fact that your simulated soldier is running across sand and rocks and snow while jacked up on adrenaline and was also shot in the leg 12 seconds ago. You cannot strictly rely on perfectly realistic input when what matters most is the realism of the outcome. And in this case, firefights have gotten so much better that I don't care what artificial challenges they had to input to get there. The only way I would have found these 6.01 hotfix changes to be at all palatable is if there was a corresponding increase to the ADS times for scopes. If you're going to buff scopes by making them achieve accuracy faster, then the time they should be able to achieve sight picture needs to increase as well. Other people have already mentioned this, but I've already seen a dramatic increase in the functionality of 4x scoped rifles in CQB. I was getting kills that I really should not be getting. Another thing that bothered me is a so-called bug that they fixed that was causing bipoded MGs to be swaying more than intended. It's being spun as a reasonable and necessary change. Well, I hate to break it to you, but MGs were working great at their primary role as a platform for area denial and suppression of multiple enemies at once, even before the bug fix. If, after 3+ months of playtesting, no one caught this, it's a feature, not a bug. The MGs shouldn't be an all-purpose fragging weapon. It should only really be racking up kills if you catch people unawares when they're moving in the open. The 80% use case should be laying down fire on enemies in defilade to keep their heads down so your riflemen can either make the accurate shots to get the frags or move to their flanks. Your standard rifles should be the fragging kits. Stop incentivizing Timmy to pick up all the specialty kits. It's enough of a problem already. I'm already having issues where my squad mates insta-pick all the fire support roles because they want the good kits. It's hard enough as it is getting 2 medics in a squad, let alone a rifleman or 2 in order to drop an ammo bag to refresh rallies or to pull AT rockets off. It's just another step in the wrong direction. And don't even get me started on buffing marksman rifles in CQB. I'm almost at the point where I'm going to start naming my squad I Kick Marksman. Ultimately, I think that the divide between ICO haters and ICO enjoyers is just too big to reconcile. It's a fundamental fork in the road in terms of game design, wherein there is no middle ground compromise, only a different direction. The gameplay outcomes each side is looking for are just too different to meet in the middle, and based on how the ICO has been received overall, it seems clear which path OWI should favor. Trying to cater to legacy squad players as a means of soft appeasement is only going to lead to alienating both player bases. By continually reneging on the direction the ICO is going in by softening the weapon handling, they're attempting to bridge a gap that cannot be bridged. What is the goal here? To gaslight the people that don't like the changes bit by bit until they get over it and keep playing? Dude, go read the comments in the V6 feedback section. It's not going to happen. There's something like 10% of the player base that is just entirely unwilling to play this new game. And it's OWI's fault for attracting these types of players in the first place. The game I want Squad to be is not a game that could be played with someone that thinks it should handle more like Counter-Strike. On one hand, you have legacy Squad enjoyers whom love the fast move speed, want short 45-minute rounds, crisp weapon handling with low recoil, individual skill-centric gameplay where they can flat-out merc roll, where they can pull off single-handed squad wipes. That sort of QE peeking-centric sort of meta with mechanical skill being a major factor. These are the modern FPS gamers. They're addicted to TikTok. They can't listen to more than 5 seconds of human speech without having video footage of a car crash spliced in underneath it in order to hold their attention. The people who have had their attention span systematically destroyed by the excesses of a modern digital dystopian hellscape that we're all stuck in to the point where they've been rendered functionally illiterate. I don't want them in my squad. These are the players that give me a migraine when playing SL, trying to herd them like cats. They won't come out and say it bluntly, but if you'll allow me to generalize, what they're essentially lobbying for is a modern deathmatch FPS that is fast-paced, with a short time to kill, that does not introduce artificial challenges to aiming, so that they're better able to leverage their individual skill. This is fundamentally incompatible with what I want and what I think OWI is trying to do with the overhaul. I personally am uninterested in playing a game that is an attempt at finding a middle ground there. There is a reason no other games have been able to replicate what PR did, because you have to break a lot of the rules of modern FPS game design to get there. I've seen the PR glory days, and I know what type of gameplay a heavy nerf to infantry can achieve. In order to generate more memorable scenarios, you need to have high-stakes, single-objective encounters that play out slowly and have different waves to the firefight. Even after the ICO, the game still plays really fast. Yes, I'm still adapting, but as SL, you quite simply do not have the bandwidth to stay tuned in to global comms, as well as manage and be in the moment with your squad mates. And when the SL isn't as engaged with the guys around him, he can't be as communicative, and people start to wander off, and it all just unravels further from there. Headshots still happen far too often. Not everyone will agree with me here, but in my opinion, shots should wound far more than they should lead to downs, and effectively winning an engagement shouldn't mean specifically that your squad wiped their squad. It should just as often mean you winged them, they retreated, and you moved up to claim the ground that they conceded to you. Infantry versus infantry should be more like inconclusive skirmishes and less like full wipe victories. With the way FOBs are implemented currently, things are closer to setting up and knocking down waves of kamikaze bowling pins, and less sway, leading to more accurate fire, only exacerbates this pre-existing design flaw. Perhaps my standards are just too high, but I legitimately believe that a partially implemented ICO won't work. The implementation of a punishing, challenging infantry experience that I crave needs teeth, otherwise it will miss the target. Some of these newer players might get hooked and settle with a middling game, but if they keep reverting the most controversial changes, I don't think this game will be able to hold my attention long term. It's either a yes or a no. It's either these admittedly peculiar and niche design choices are fully expressed, or it won't really work. What ICO enjoyers want is a wolf, a snarling, wild, fearsome, experiential firefight simulator with player challenges that go beyond don't let your head get clicked. But if you keep neutering these design features so as not to scare off the Zoomers, you're going to turn that wolf into a chihuahua and botch it. I just don't think you can merge these two player bases. Stop trying to appease them. Stop letting their criticisms of the ICO influence your hotfixes and patches. If you believe in the overhaul being the right decision, let the gameplay speak for itself over time. Let YouTubers put out 5-star footage of gameplay, and let people come to the game that you create. Field of Dreams, man. If you build it, they will come. If Squad is going to slow down the game enough to allow emergent teamwork synthesis and strategy, to create the fun memories, to create these intense firefights that have consequences based on everyone's performance, they're going to need to stick by their vision and commit to writing out the onboarding phase for at least another month or so. Have some faith in your product. This 6.01 hotfix is definitely a step in the wrong direction. I'm not going to say it's a trend in the wrong direction, but it seemed like when they announced it, they were also planning on more tweaks coming down the pipe. If you account for where the ICO playtest was 2 months ago, it certainly does seem like a trend, however, as they've been tightening things up every 2 weeks since the start of it. Please, OWI, bring back the 50% wider point fire free aim. It's a skill that players will hone in with time, and having spent time practicing it, I loved the looser feel. Please, OWI, make the downside to 4x scopes debilitating in close quarters so as to count for their very real strengths at long range. Please, OWI, bring back the blurred scopes upon trigger pull. That alone was the most poetically visceral simulation of the momentary oomph you experience when the cartridge explodes 4 inches from your face and assaults all of your senses at once. It added a fraction of a second to reacquiring your target at range and slowed down your accurate follow-up shots. That is a key element to lengthening time to kill. If you look at the direction we're going now, it almost looks like a bait and switch from both sides of this equation. During the initial playtests, things were much looser, more punishing, more noodly armed. It was more challenging to be accurate and mobile than it is currently. I expected, even when playing it early, that players would adapt with time. At a certain point, if OWI continues to cater to the least common denominator here, I am going to become unenthused just as much as the anti-ICO people. I'm not exaggerating when I say the ICO is the first thing an FPS has done to catch my attention in 7+, maybe even more years. If OWI has the stones to stay committed to the direction they outlined at the onset of this, it could go down as one of the most successful post-launch redesigns of a video game ever. But trying to split the baby, appease both sides, and find a happy middle ground will ultimately just miss the target. So OWI, please, you have a clear sight picture of what you're aiming for. Please don't start shuffling your feet now and ruin your stability, because all you're going to do is just reset your deviation markers. Alright, that's all I got for this time. Now get off my lawn.